What's up, guys? It's Navelow here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys the second episode of the Legends Lounge podcast. This podcast can be found on all major streaming platforms like iTunes and Spotify, and a video version on YouTube. This is your one-stop shop to hear all your favorite content creators and pro players' opinions on the game while getting to know them on a personal level. And for the second episode, we have a very special guest, Liquid Hodsic. Before we get into anything, I want to start off with your beginning, how you got into gaming, how you came into Apex, and how you kind of like fell in love with the game.
Yeah, I mean, I got into gaming by, I think most people probably know by now that my family is Bosnian, and we immigrated here when I was like 3 or 4 years old. The earliest memory I have, I think I was like 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly, but I remember I was like really young, but I remember this memory pretty vividly. In this apartment building that my family lived in, I remember there was this other kid who was just roughly around the same age as me, asked me for help on setting up his NES. Yes, I'm obviously a little bit older than most, but yeah, I mean, and we set it up, and the first game we played instantly was Duck Hunt, and I was just like, I don't know, I thought it was like the coolest freaking thing. I mean, keep in mind, I was like 5 or 6, but I mean, it's been pretty much downhill since then. I've been in love with video games ever since then. Apex was a game that, I mean, I've always been a fan of Battle Royale since PUBG came out. That was the first one I played, but I hated the game at the same time because it was just kind of really bad, I always thought. But like I was addicted to that feeling of Battle Royale, and I kept going to all of them, you know, trying each and every single one. And I was starting to get kind of burnt out on them because I felt like none of them really nailed the formula, at least to my liking. And then I remember I wasn't streaming full time at the time that Apex came out. I was in between jobs actually. And I remember I was like a 20 viewer streamer at the time too, very small following. And I remember I was getting my capture card for my Switch came in, and I was going to play Breath of the Wild. And my couple people that watched were super excited. And I was like, we'll do that tomorrow, the day before Apex came out. I was like, we'll do it tomorrow, but there's rumors of a new Battle Royale coming out from EA tomorrow. So if there is, we'll check that out for a couple hours. We'll see what happens. And then I didn't play Breath of the Wild for like 3 months because I was just hard addicted to Apex. Like I played it every day for like 13 plus hours. Not because I even wanted to like go pro, or like be like a big streamer. I just really enjoyed the game. And I was very lucky with how like things, I guess, fell into my lap in that regard, and how I actually was able to make it a job.
Was there like a certain moment that you kind of like was able to tell that this was going to be your job? Like, was there a paycheck? Yeah. Was there a host? Was there anything along the lines of that?
Yeah. So even though my community at the time was really small, they were like ultra supportive. So I was doing okay. Like I was making all right money, even though it wasn't like my job. Mm-hmm. But I think the one moment that really went big for me was that like really clicked was the first Twitch Rivals tournament that was coming up. King Richard needed a team, and I got a world record very early on in Apex for most squad kills, or most kills among like the whole squad, the whole game. It was me and 2 of my friends, and it was I believe it was 39 kills, and this is like really early on in Apex. It was 39 kills for the entire game, and this is before people found out about like the balloon jumping, like B-hop healing, all these things to kind of like help them get across the map faster and frag more. This is when like the bare bones mechanics were still like the norm. And we held it for like about a week, which was I think impressive at the time, because most of the records were broken like the next day. But I got out to that world record and got in touch with King Richard about when he needed a team. I like put that on his post, and he said he'll give me a tryout. But he has a bunch of people to try out, right? One of those people were Dizzy. And he had already, at this point, when I got to my tryout, he had already picked Dizzy, because Dizzy was absolutely fragging and just did all this crazy stuff, as we all know. Mm-hmm. And but after my tryout, it was pretty crazy. Got a lot of love from his stream. A lot of people came to my chat and were like very impressed. I definitely kind of choked a little bit, and I was very sad about it because them 2 died, and it was pretty much me on my own in the last game. And I know probably if I had clutched it up, there's a really good chance he probably would have invited me to be on his team. And of course, for those that are watching that didn't know, King Richard and NRG's King Richard and Dizzy won the first Twitch Rivals like pretty easily with Ninja.
Mm-hmm.
But later on in that same night, his chat was asking him who he's thinking about, and he basically was thinking about picking me or another player named Bird. But a couple hours later, Ninja got on. This is again when Apex was like fresh off the scene, super hot. Everyone was loving it. Ninja got on and was like, "Yo, yeah." They were like, "Who are you playing with?" And he's like, "I never got invited." And they're like, "What?" And so they just invite him on the spot, so which is understandable. But it was getting that close and keeping up with those kinds of guys, and they went and slaughtered the first Twitch Rivals. That made me realize, like, hey, maybe something could come of this. I still didn't like go hard with the full intent to make it a job, but that was like the first moment that I was like, wow, that's like, I knew I was pretty all right at the game. I didn't realize I could actually maybe do something with it. So, but that was definitely the first moment.
Who did you main at the start of Apex?
I didn't really stick to a main, to be honest, because I know in my past playing character-based games like this, like I played a ton of Dota, a decent amount of Overwatch. I didn't like maining one character because I knew balance changes could always throw everything off. I always preferred, and even to this day, I always prefer playing as many as I can and grabbing a little bit of information from each one. Not necessarily maybe mastering one, but like I remember when scrims were coming up, everyone was looking for certain character mains, and I didn't want to be a not attractive person for a team just because I was like a Wraith main and everybody was a Wraith main. I definitely stayed away from Wraith because everybody was a Wraith main. I knew that would lower my chances. So I played Bangalore, Bloodhound in the beginning when he was considered okay, but once people realized he's not that great, I definitely played a lot of Lifeline. And then once Watson came out and like I was playing pro, that was mostly my main.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, same here. I literally had to stick away from Wraith because I knew everybody was going to play Wraith. Everybody was a better fragger than me. I just had to stick away from Wraith. I think I have like one win from season 1, 2, and 3 on Wraith just because I never played her ever. I just couldn't stick on her. Just everybody else played her, so I feel that. Who did you get the kill wrecker on? Like
I was Bloodhound.
Bloodhound,
yeah. This is because I was one of those. I mean, this is again early on in the game. This is when me and my friends I was playing with were like, "Whoa." We're like, okay, Wraith is pretty good. We probably won't Wraith. And then we're like, Bloodhound in Bangalore, you smoke him, and then I ult, and then we just kill everything. That was kind of the meta in the very beginning. Yeah, it certainly was. And I did it also with the Hemlock too. I remember in that game, I was like, man, this gun kind of slaps. Even though it was seen as kind of a joke then, but I was like, I was frying with that. I didn't even realize
original Noko.
Yeah, like we weren't even pushing for the kill record. It was like, there is a video of the game somewhere out there. But I remember it was like, there were like 5 squads left. And I was just like, how many kills you guys got? And like, my friends told me and I was like, wait, we actually have like a ton of kills. We could do something with this. And then it wasn't until after the game where like, we looked up what the kill record was and like, holy crap, we actually we kind of farmed. So it was pretty cool.
Okay. So I saw that, or I hear that you guys kind of like got into scrims and you kind of were just messing around with what kind of legends you were picking and whatnot. And I remember I was trying to go back into your YouTube channel and kind of like piece together a couple things and whatnot. I remember there was this one video of you like scrimming, and I think it was Q Snipes because you were talking about like, oh, this team isn't really a scrim team. They were just kind of in our lobby, so I'm assuming it was just Q Snipes. I remember you guys just absolutely, you specifically had a longbow and just dumpstered Liquid. It was when I think it was Casper, Rogue, and I can't remember who the other guy was. Was it? Okay. Yeah. He got away, so I couldn't really tell. But dude, it was just, that was when the longbow was just insanely good. Sucks to kind of see it go down, but it was so funny because you were like, oh, these guys are good. So it's crazy to kind of see you come full circle, and now you kind of coach the team. And a lot of people don't know that Rogue was on Liquid at the beginning, which is also really cool. Yeah. What kind of go ahead.
I was gonna say I remember. I think I have that video still up. I think it's unlisted though, because I figured maybe it doesn't really fit the channel anymore. But I'm glad that Yoshi went back and saw it, because it's pretty cool to go back and like look at that, because the ending team we killed also was iShiny, Muffins, and I believe their old initial Fnatic teammate, Corn Pops.
Spirit? Oh, no, Corn Pop. Okay. I remember watching, I forget what it was. I think it was a Twitch Rivals, and Corn Pops, man. I don't know where he is now, but he was disgusting. He was really, really good. his Kraber shots were just absolutely
nuts.
electrifying. What kind of got you into VOD reviewing? Like, was it something that your viewers kind of just like told you to do, or is it something that just kind of came naturally? I know pro players like VOD reviewing, so what kind of made you want to share your kind of like insight with the game to the public?
It definitely came from one moment where there was I think it was like the first real big online tournament before like the ALGS. It was like a $25,000 I think GLL or PGL tournament or something like that that most of the teams were invited to, and then there were 2 spots that you had to kill race for back in the old days, and I qualified through the kill races with Decop and Solve, who were ex Tempo Storm, and then we did pretty all right. We probably could I probably myself could have done better, but it was after that tournament. I was sitting in a Discord channel with and just hanging out with like Lou, Monsoon, Decop, and them. And then we were just, and then I think it was Lou that brought up the idea. He's like, I was like, I'm going to stream it. I told him I'm going to stream it in a bit. And he's like, you want to VOD? Like, Lou was like, you want a VOD review on stream? I was like, you mean like the tournament that just happened? He's like, yeah. He's like, screw it. Like, let's just hang out and just like talk about what happened. And I was like, okay, fine. And while we were doing it, like, it was, completely out of the blue. And while we were doing it, I had noticed, like, this is before I got partnered and everything. I had noticed that people really liked it. And like, my chat engagement was a lot higher than my normal streams. Like, people always kind of like lurk, but a lot of people were coming out and asking all these very, very basic questions that like to a pro player is like, well, yeah, I mean, that's, oh, people rotate through here because of this and this, right? And they're asking so many basic questions, and I was like, huh, it seems like there's, and then I thought about it, I was like, there isn't really a connect at the time between like the pro scene and like the average viewer in terms of like educational stuff and why those things happen. And people seem to really like it. So I think I hit like almost 100 viewers on my own. And then the next time I did it, where I actually like planned it out, I hit like 330 viewers organically, which is, even to this day, I actually don't hit that many usually organically. So that was like really cool. I was like, damn, people really like this stuff. And yeah, it was kind of, I like being like kind of analytical and looking at all this kind of stuff. And the fact that other people enjoyed hearing it was just kind of like knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is kind of a perfect segue into the first topic I want to get into, which is just amateur and pro, like amateur to pro. What kind of made you want to get into pro play in the first place? Like, when did you kind of like realize like, hey, I could probably make money off this. I could actually compete and earn money from it.
Day 1 of the Apex Pro League, literally the first day back in the day. I didn't actually have a team to compete with, I think, at the time. Because, it's a ton of people. I mean, there were like several hundred people that were basically queuing Q-Snipe Scrims to like try to see what could happen with it. Because some people were, at this time, some people were already getting signed to teams, and people were like, oh, okay, so this actually might be like an esport. Day 1 of the Apex Pro League. Again, if you, I guess if the viewer, whoever's watching this doesn't know what that is, very quick, that was like it was a Discord for Q-Snipe Scrims that had like an automated bot that basically would tally your points and stuff like that. And it was pretty much the only way we could actually get together and like scrim and kind of have like a league, because we realized the normal Q-Snipe Scrims, people weren't playing seriously, but we figured, hey, maybe we have a league, and then we take this league, like take the results, bring it to orgs. A lot of people actually got signed off those scrim results. So a lot of orgs were actually looking at that. So day 1, I filled for Monsoon's team when he was WBG with Bert and Urban. Bert couldn't make the very first day of it, so I filled for Monsoon. I knew Monsoon from a previous game. We weren't like close. I just knew of him, and because we competed against each other. But they needed a fill, and I was like, yeah, I don't mind filling. And we won. It was 6 games a night, and we won every single game. Every single game with like decent amount of kills too. Like, we actually just destroyed everybody, and we got off to like, I think over more than doubled and tripled 2nd and 3rd places points. So that's when I was like, this probably could be something, right? I might want to like try a little bit harder in this and see what can happen. So that's like, it was the very first day of Apex Pro League that kind of secured it for me.
And this was like T1 League, right?
It was T1 League before it was T1.
Oh, okay.
This is what T1 League turned into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I never really got into competitive prior to season 2. I kind of started in season 3 with Stomps, if you know who he is, and I just remember every day, 6 roll would just count down for us every day, and he'd either say happy birthday to Noko or just call you a boomer, and then we would just be on with the the scrims, and it was just hella fun.
Yeah.
And everything's definitely changed from here on out, like to those days to now, because now we have what's it called, custom lobbies, and especially like even custom lobbies are a lot different from when they first came out. Like the whole chat system, there wasn't a chat when customs came out at first. The really the only way to chat with like one team to another was just changing the team name. That was interesting because you only had what, like 16 characters or something like that. So a lot of people would just put in like their drop spot, but now we have chat, we have observer, we have just so many different things that just when customs first came out we just never had. So it's a lot of things that are different from the T1 days, which is really nice. And speaking of things that are different, like how is it different for people who don't know? How is it different to be able to qualify like for an ALGS finals now to how you kind of qualified for Poland? Because I know Poland was a lot different from how you kind of qualify for ALGS now. Could you kind of explain? Because I know you went to Poland and competed there. So how did you and your team, Six and Turns, how did you guys get to Poland?
So a lot of it was also basically from this T1 Apex Pro League Discord. Pretty much if you were on a tier 1 org, or most of the big orgs, you basically got invited. There wasn't an actual like hard qualifier, so it was a little bit shaky on who got invited, but I was on the Pittsburgh Knights at the time, and we didn't get a part of the first wave of invites, so we were a little bit like worried if we were actually going to get to go. But eventually, once it was like 80 some teams, so I think it was 80 exactly actually. So they definitely filled it with like kind of as many just competitive teams as they could find, and we eventually just got an invite. It was mostly invite only. There wasn't really a qualifier. But now with ALGS, obviously that was the preseason, so that was meant to be like an intro, and then it's definitely probably a better system now, at least for the average person if they want to get in and see what they can do. It's a lot more inclusive for sure.
Yeah. How did you meet Turns and Six prior to Poland?
Six I knew from the game that I used to play before, which was Realm Royale, the Battle Royale that I played before. I wasn't like a big name in Realm Royale, but probably most of the community knew me. But like I wasn't like, I was like 30, 40 viewer average in that game. But that game in general was pretty small. So, but I knew Six from there. I competed against him. He's shot on me multiple times within the pub games. But same thing as Monsoon. I knew Monsoon from there too. So I knew of Six, but we never like talked. We just knew of each other, kind of as competitors. So when I got the opportunity to join the Pittsburgh Knights, they gave me the freedom to find my own team. So I went, and Six and I at this point have already been friends because we play after Realm Royale kind of died. Him and I started to get closer. We used to play games together like Blackout, all these other things. So I went to him because I knew he was generally just a really good, mechanically gifted VR player. So I was like, hey, let's see what we can do. And then we basically just went through a bunch of tryouts in the T1 Discord, looking for people. And Turns was certainly a good fit for us because we kind of like me and Six are kind of definitely very heavy on the IGL side. Like, we think a lot. We just kind of wanted a hard fragger, and Turns at the time definitely filled that role for us.
And it's kind of crazy to see you guys all go your separate ways kind of after a couple tournaments, and literally all of you guys have found success. You have been like the probably one of the most notable coaches within the Apex Legends scene altogether, no matter region restricted or not. Six won a tournament, an ALGS tournament with Bowser and Nicewig, and then you have Turns, who came in second with SF, I believe, in OT2. Should have got first, but man, TSM just powerhouse at that time, powerhouse. So it's really nice to see you guys all kind of go to Poland together. You guys all became friends, and then you guys kind of all go your separate ways and all find success in different respects.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was
no, go ahead.
I still love the boys. We didn't go our separate ways because we had like any bad blood or anything. We just it's just one of those things that sometimes it's easier to find a team when you're a solo. But I'm really happy that they turn out doing well for themselves as well.
And I know that you kind of were talking briefly about how you were able to kind of pick your team with the Pittsburgh Knights. For people who want to be pros now, and they want to be like under an organization banner, do you have any kind of like tips for them to be able to stand out? That could be like, oh, this team is probably, we want to sign them more than this team because of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the landscape for that is a lot different these days because you no longer really have too many orgs looking to get into the game in terms of, just signing up like, hey, oh, these 3 guys they're free agents, they're really good, let's sign them. At this point is pretty much who's the teams that already exist, who's an individual, like, teams will be shifting constantly, especially if they're big tournaments. One player might just not really mesh well with them anymore. That's just the nature of sports and esports in general. So probably my biggest advice is just pop off as much as you can on an individual level. Even in the current scrims that exist, if you're constantly on a team that might be that you're constantly killing, like, pro players and whatnot, and you're being generally respectful, not being an asshole on like social media or something like that. But if you're doing really well in scrims, you don't have to be winning, but if you do enough to at least impress the existing pros or whomever, when the time comes when they need somebody, we all go down lists and we think about everybody that's in the scene and we think about who would be a good fit. So just work on yourself, be the best that you possibly can be, pop off an ALGS. Obviously that usually looks very good. And then, when the time comes, if someone's needed, then, people will come knocking. Oh, ranked as well. I know people find it like as a meme, but like if you get into the ranked scene as well, I mean, you'll naturally probably come across a lot of pro players. You will probably play with a lot of them. And that's like, there's a lot of people that I've changed my opinion on just by virtue of coming across them in ranked a bunch. So they've always like, either they absolutely like dumpster me out of the blue and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's kind of nuts. That happened with a couple of people actually, where I'm just like, wait, this guy's pretty cool. And then we've gone to either team or maybe potentially talk about teaming. So just be your best, pop off as much as you can, stick to the grind, and keep your ego low as you're doing it.
And what kind of mistakes do you find amateur players or amateur teams kind of like go through, whether it's like trying to go for an org, like I know that you were just saying, like, don't be an asshole on Twitter, or kind of stick in your own lane in a sense, or is it even like in game, like different kind of rotations, kind of, screw this team over, or like what kind of mistakes do you see that like commonly happen a lot that just can easily be fixed, and how to fix them?
Kind of piggybacks off what the last thing I just said, keeping your egos low. I think there's a lot of teams that will get the sense of false confidence from, like, they might, maybe they have a lot of success killing a pro team over and over, or ranked running over some pro players, and they get this like false confidence that they think they can do whatever, and and even though they're successful at maybe engaging that team, but they're still showing really bad results, they think they don't spend the time to identify what the real problem is. I can easily differentiate when I'm playing what a good team is and what a bad team is, literally based off of a push. There's a lot of dumb like, yeah, you might have rolled over the team that you're pushing, but if you end up dying for it less than a minute later, like, that's not a good push. And there's a lot of teams that are known to continue to like be doing these dumb pushes, where it doesn't matter, your ability to fight doesn't matter if you just don't die because you chose a very poor macro decision. And I think there's a lot of teams that also, I can tell they probably don't VOD review themselves because they continue to make these mistakes. So that's why I'm like, I do think people get like a false confidence and an inflated ego from winning fights that necessarily don't even make sense for them to be pushing, right? They're band-aiding a smaller issue rather than tackling the big one at hand. So definitely VOD reviewing and actually exploring the root cause of why they're not doing well.
And kind of, again, piggybacking off of VOD reviewing again, I know that we already talked about kind of what got you into VOD reviewing, and this kind of goes into the second topic I want to talk about, which is coaching. How did like you VOD reviewing and competing kind of turn into a coaching job at Liquid? Like, was there any major thing that was on your resume that Liquid was like, hey, yeah, this guy is like, he's good, he's smart, I want him to coach us, I think he could really help us? Was there anything major?
At the time, I mean, so they were interested based off the VODers. Actually, Nocturnal messaged me and was like, he messaged me just asking if I know any analysts. And I was like, what for? And he was like, for a coaching position. And I was like, hi, me. And he's like, you want to try out? And I was like, sure, let's see what happens. And I coached them for like 3 days. We did a lot of work together. I kind of like, I didn't change a lot of the way they played. I just kind of refined it. And then they won online tournament 3. They dethroned TSM's streak. And I mean, I guess you don't really need much more of a tryout, or you don't really need to go much further in the tryout than, winning a tournament. So they kind of signed me almost instantly after that.
That's awesome. I believe, wasn't one of your first kind of like refinements like telling them to run like a crap ton of snipers?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because at the time, snipers, I think this is early on when snipers just got changed to their own category and stuff. And so people weren't picking it up because, you had to lug around sniper ammo. It's not easy to get all the time. But I watched a lot of EU gameplay at the time. And I was like, man, I remember Alliance especially. I was like, man, they're literally running triple snipers. They're bunkering up mid zone, running triple snipers. This is when Evo armors were also a new thing. And most people weren't picking them up, at least because, it was just like, they preferred getting a blue armor because, you didn't have to level up the Evo, which at the time was started at 25. So it was a bit of a risk. So Evo armors and snipers were the first 2 things I told them to start doing. And things changed overnight. Like the next scrim, every single game they had red armors, which they didn't have before. And they were seeing a lot more success. And then that translated into the tournament.
It was really annoying playing against Liquid. They always just had snipers, top train cart whenever it was a train yard zone. It was just near impossible to rotate in from Skyhook side in that open field. It was just, just scouts, charge rifles, longbows, 4 to 8s, 4 to 10s. It was just god awful rotating against Liquid just because they had it all. And I remember just a bunch of doing a watch party on OT3, I believe. Was that where you guys dethroned TSM?
Yeah, it was OT3.
Yeah, OT3. I just remember having a watch party and just, I think it was Sentinels, I'm not exactly sure who it was, but they were absolutely mauling over just getting like double charge rifled. And it was just so funny to watch, man. And that was a perfect refinement because just like you were saying, nobody was really doing that. And I remember when Gibby started coming into the comp and you were saying like the less Gibbies there are, the more powerful Gibby becomes, and vice versa with Pathfinder. And I think that kind of applies to like gun meta as well with like snipers. If a lot of people aren't running snipers, as long as you put your team in that position to be able to thrive with snipers, I mean, lo and behold, it just wins. And I see TSM kind of doing that more and more as of like right now. Imperial Hal, he's just been running charge rifle, and they've been I feel like getting a little bit more consistent results as of late with snipers, and it's just amazing to see. Just one small coaching kind of like refinement really just changed the complete output of or future of Apex just by dethroning TSM with snipers and whatnot.
Yeah, and that was a lot of it. Also, like I don't think everybody should be doing it, but I told them that because at the time they were landing Train Yard and what was Drill Station, which is now Countdown. So it just made sense with the way they played. Their play style. I didn't change their play style. I wanted to like just try to help them with their current one. Their play style was what a lot of the top teams were doing, which is just scan beacon, gain center zone, bunker up with Watson, and then just poke at people. And they were doing that before without Evos and without snipers, and I thought it was a pretty no-brainer change to do that.
And I know a lot of people have like different opinions on coaches for battle royales because I feel like a lot of people think that battle royales are just completely RNG and there's no kind of strats or whatever, which is just far from the truth and whatnot. And just people have like a lot of different opinions on battle royale teams having coaches. Since you are one, I kind of want to get your opinion on that. Like, do you think that there should be teams that have coaches, or do you think that it's a very what's the word? It's
niche.
So, yeah, niche. Do you think just like every team should have a coach, only some, or just none, or do you think coaches really benefit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and I think every pro. I know there's some pros at the time when I got signed as a coach, they probably thought it was a bit silly, but at the same time, I think every pro knows that there's a lot of decision making that goes into every single game, and what to do and whatnot. A lot of pros, I think, also just think they know, like they think they got it figured out, which is great. Like if they do, that's fine, then they don't need one. But I do think there's a lot of benefit to it because what matters the most is like you're gonna mess up a lot in a BR, right? Like you said, there is RNG in it, but what matters most, I think, the coach serves as a really good mediator for like figuring out what actually happened. Because when a fight goes wrong or something, and a team gets picked or fails a rotation, everybody typically only gives like their account of the fight and what happened in the fight and how they think it should have happened or how they see everything. But I think one of the nice things about a coach is they'll take that extra time to look at everyone's VOD like individually, collectively, and then actually get like the bigger picture of what should have happened. Like why, like, yeah, sure, that guy got picked, but why did that happen? Right. I think it takes it to the next level. I think certain people, I don't really know. I know of coaches outside of like myself, but I don't really know the kind of advice like they give or what they exactly like how they help their team. So I'm not sure in that regard. You know, I think I'm definitely very qualified given that I have competed at the highest level. So I know how to like what I need to be looking for. But no, I definitely think BRs are. I think the fact that they're just a growing esport and there's not a lot of coaches that are in it. People think, oh, like, well, then you don't really need one. Fact of the matter is, I think every team would have one if orgs were willing to pay that much for, willing to pay the extra for a coach, right? Apex isn't the most profitable game for orgs that are in it, so I think most of them would rather not incur that extra expense. But I think if there was like a franchise league and they're making a lot of money from it, you would absolutely see coaches and analysts for sure.
And it's really nice how you kind of mentioned that is like coaches, I feel like you were saying, it's really easy for like a 3-man squad to kind of point fingers at each other and say, hey, you kind of did this wrong. So it's always like 3-man squad. So it's always going to be like a 2 versus 1 kind of like no matter how you really go about it. So it's nice to have like a fourth kind of like overview and kind of iron out all these different problems that could occur. I feel like TSM is one of those teams that is really good at not being able to do that, where they kind of don't point fingers at each other. They're very level-headed and they are able to kind of like talk a lot of different things out. It's nice to see G Dolphin as their kind of coach and analyst as well, be able to kind of be that mediator as well on top of them already being good at that. And other people, I think the only other really coach that I really know all too much about is Night Raven. I'm not sure if he's a coach. I know he's an analyst for NRG, but it's definitely nice to see a variety of coaches being able to help different orgs and whatnot. I think Night Raven helped out with Nasky, and Nasky's been getting extremely good at reading circles, especially while playing crypto in this meta. So having different coaches and having that third kind of view on teams is just really nice to have.
Yeah, I think it's funny too, because I remember Reps in particular gave me a lot of shit for being a coach, thinking that, oh, you don't need coaches or whatever. But there he is now. He's got one himself. So, yeah, so I think, I mean, I just think it's a matter of do orgs want to pay for it? Because I think there's so much strategy involved and so many things that, like, at the end of the day, BRs are all about, like, exposing yourself to as many scenarios as possible, failing, but most importantly, learning from that failure. You know, like, why did that rotation go south? And I think that's kind of the bridge that the coach serves to fix, I guess.
Would you have any kind of like advice for aspiring coaches who want to get picked up by like an org? Would it be helpful for them to kind of like start coaching like a lesser known team who's kind of like done well in like something smaller like a GLL Community Cup? Or do they kind of just shoot their shot and go for like a tier 1 org and just say, hey, this is my resume, what do you think? What is there any kind of like advice that you can give them?
I think just probably well, the first thing you have to make sure is you have credibility. So the only way to establish credibility is pretty much to do something that proves it. So either like get your name out there, even getting high rank is not bad, because a lot of people meme like, oh, you know, like ranked certainly is nothing like comp, but at the same time, it's the closest thing to it outside of comp. So because you still want to play, like if you want high RP, then you have to play slow. You have to play a little bit more methodical. However, your end games aren't going to be as crazy because there won't be that many teams. But proving your credibility in terms of like the way like I did, which was the early VOD reviews that I did. So Nocturnal originally messaged me just to know if I knew any analysts, but I think he was okay with me coaching because like he knew at the time I was doing the VOD reviews. I think most of the pros did. And I had a lot of pros show up too, so I think they found it helpful as well. So like that kind of established my credibility in that sense. And then and then I got that tryout. For other coaches that aren't in the scene, I think it's more about just getting your name out there as much as possible. Whichever way that you can do that through is like maybe YouTube like videos of like coaching and stuff like that, because most people will hire to their team or to their org just based on people they know. You know, like when Casper took his break, you know, we immediately sat down. Like we're not going to hold a tryout. We're just going to go to all the pros that we know that need a team, right? So it's all about getting your name out there. And for now, if I was in a position of like a brand new coach and I really wanted to get into coaching, I'd probably put together maybe like a reel of things of like an analysis of maybe of a team that streamed their gameplay, and maybe send it to them and be like, hey, you know, did this analysis, what do you think? If you guys are interested, I'd be happy to coach you or something, or be your coach. So just put something out there that establishes your credibility, that you know what you're talking about.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, do you think that like that they should kind of like VOD review and coach like bigger teams, or do you think that they should kind of go for like smaller teams? Because I know like when TSM put out their coaching kind of position, how you would apply for that. How would somebody smaller kind of gain the respect of somebody like the 5-time champions of HAL and Reps when they were looking for somebody? How do you think that a smaller person can kind of gain respect? Because I feel like, especially within NA, I don't want to say there's a lot of egos within NA, but there's just definitely a lot of like, hard yeah, I just don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just a lot of hard-headedness. So how would somebody smaller who doesn't really have that kind of rep, how would they kind of gain respect from those top-tier players? Would it be like tournament placements? Would it be kind of like doing hot takes and predicting like a meta or something along the lines of that?
Tournament placements is obviously probably the best start, but you know, I know anyone that wants to get into coaching might not be as mechanically like able to do so. But I'd say probably similar to something like Night Raven. Like Night Raven, I don't think has like the biggest following, but he took I don't know how he got on to. I believe he was analyst for GSD at first, Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. I don't know how he got to them. I'm sure again he probably proved his credibility. I think he got their interest by like knowing how to read zones. Yep. So so like he established his credibility with them. They did really well, and I think NRG sniped him for that reason, I'm guessing. I don't know him too well, but yeah, I mean, just something like that. Start with the team that, you know, you might see a little bit of like a free agent team that you see maybe some sort of potential in. Maybe, like I said, maybe VOD review their games for them and like on your own time, and then be like, yo, what do you think of this? And then just try to help them out. I think that's probably the best way to do it, you know, because there are a lot of players out there, I think, that can certainly be top tier competitors, but just need to be pushed in the right direction. So start with a smaller team, see if they'll take you on, and then get some results with them. It's probably the best way to do it. And like I said, and probably proving yourself to them by like, you know, maybe already VOD reviewing their games and then showing it to them.
That kind of brings me into my next kind of like topic, which is just ALGS and self-identity. Personally, I think Apex competitively can just be a forefront of esports. I personally think it's probably the best battle royale because there is, like I said earlier, there is like RNG within Apex, but it's very manageable, especially with the recent changes, as in like Evo, which isn't too recent, but it's recent enough. That takes a lot of what's it called? RNG out of the game. And there's just so many different things that like you can manage the RNG within Apex Legends. So I think it definitely could be a forefront of esports. And I another thing is just, I think Apex just really needs to push their competitive side a little bit more. And I kind of wanted to get your opinion on how they could do that. Just one idea that I would have is, like, I know CSGO, whenever there's a major tournament going on, whenever you launch into the game, you have a small little tab, like with the Twitch link of like their major tournament. And I think Apex could do that very easily with like a small little like tab on the right side of the screen. Whenever there's an ALGS kind of tournament going on, they could just have a small little thing saying, hey, we're live on Twitch with the best pro players. Click here to kind of watch. What do you think that Respawn and EA can really do to be able to push their competitive side of Apex to be able to bring it to the forefront of the casual fan base?
More marketing probably is probably like the easiest like forehead answer. I know they didn't always do it, but they've started to throw it into like their like when you launch the game. But the only problem with that is, like, it would be nice if they could embed the stream somehow, like a streaming tab in their game. Like, I know like PUBG, I think, does a really good job of it, where anytime there is a tournament coming up, I mean, they have their own like franchise league and everything, but anytime a tournament's coming up, they have, not only do they have cosmetics for it, but I know there's the reason we don't see that is like there's some like legal troubles with it. It's not exactly as easy as people think, but there's usually cosmetics for it. They hype it up beforehand. You can watch it in game. Like, the stuff in game changes when things happen, or when tournaments happen. Yeah, and there's like this whole streamer tab and all that. I think that would be a really good way to bring it to, because there's a lot of people that log into Apex every day. There are not a lot of people that care too much about. I mean, there are, but like there's probably a surprising amount of people, I would venture, that probably don't even care about the Twitch side or the streamer side. They just play Apex to play it. And I think that's one way to easily bridge that gap. Like, the best marketing tool you have is your game, right? Like, is the game that people log on to play every day. I know a lot of the messages that come in that advertise the game or advertise the ALGS tournaments don't come until like the day of the tournament, right? And maybe your average player isn't logging on every day. So maybe like a little thing where like upcoming events or something would be nice. All sorts of, I think the marketing could certainly stand to be a little bit better. And then, of course, like event skins and stuff like that. But like I said, that's probably much harder to do. And one thing I remember when like the game was kind of shooting out to become an esport, I'm surprised they don't have it as like part of the banners in game. I remember the first time I played the game, I was like, that banner system is so cool. Like, you could see, like, they could probably do a lot with it. They could have like sponsors on there, maybe even mid tournament. They could have sponsors thrown on there. They could like do. They could advertise events in there. They could do so much more with those banners in game. I'm surprised they don't.
That would be actually a really kind of cool idea. I didn't even really thought about that. I remember watching a montage or whatever of this guy who kind of like keyed out and masked out the banners, and he kind of put like whatever he wanted to there for like a advertisement, like exactly how you were saying. I think that would be really, really cool idea to be able to do that. That would just be able to bring who's ever promoting the tournament to the forefront of the viewer, and just kind of like hopefully be able to make more money for the actual sponsor, and then that would make them in return want to do it again and just have a consistent sponsorship from whatever company that would be. That's a really good idea. What changes would you personally want to see be done to Apex competitively? Like, I know Shiv, he kind of famously was ranting about the self-reses and kind of got that kind of single-handedly thrown out the game, even though there was a lot of backlash about it prior to that clip happening. What can you see as a coaching standpoint? What would you want to see be changed about Apex Comp to be able to make it even better than it already is?
Yeah, so I was thinking, crap, I had an idea and I just completely lost my train of thought on that. What was the first part of the question? Sorry, I completely like blanked.
It's basically just like, what could you see change about Apex Legends competitively to be able to make it better?
Right. Right. The whole Shiv thing. Well, Shiv, I mean, a lot of the things that Shiv feels, and like when he that's like that gold res is something that almost everybody, at least on the comp side, wanted taken out for a while. It was just that one clip that was very beautifully executed, I might say. It was just that one clip that kind of made it really, I guess, brought it to the forefront. And obviously, with it getting as much engagement as it did, they kind of realized that maybe people don't want it. Um, the competitive team, I know this might be like a big cap for some people, but the competitive team, I mean, I talk to them a lot actually. They do tend to try to listen to people as much as possible when it comes to at least the competitive side. They are trying to. I talk to Shaheen a lot, and they are trying to actively make it something that the comp scene themselves kind of almost form. But they don't really, they don't always take kindly to people just complaining incessantly on Twitter. But something I would want changed, and I think most of the pros, is, for example, is take Kraber out of competitive. Obviously, Kraber is like such a content weapon, and it's really cool when someone gets a knock. But competitively, the Kraber is awful. Like in a game like Apex, like getting one-shotted for something that you virtually could not see coming. If you're, like say you're fighting a team and then somebody 150 meters out that you had no idea was there and like you really couldn't tell was there. There's no real indicator. All of a sudden whips out a Kraber that was never shown in the kill feed or whatever. It was their first shot of the game with it. Like there's no counterplay to it. And in Apex, you need some form of counterplay to everything. Otherwise, it's going to feel really bad to play competitively. So first and foremost, definitely take the Kraber out. I would love, I know PvPX has been harping on this a lot forever, but I think upping loot in general in competitive would be nice. It really sucks to push a fight in competitive, or have to push a fight when you just don't have the things you need. Like you might have an entire POI to yourself, but you don't have the things you need to fight, which feels really bad. I know PUBG does this. Their loot is like increased from the base game in competitive like 3 to 4 times. And I understand they don't want to change the game too much from, with the comp scene, from the comp scene to what the like the casual game is, because if they want the casuals to see the same game that the pros are playing, and I get that, but I don't think upping like the loot necessarily would be something crazy game changing, right? So I think upping loot in general would be really nice. Something like taking out, like maybe having all of them drop in with all white gear, white backpack, white knockdown, all of that, so none of that is missing. And then I think that's the new LTM that's actually coming up, and then all just blue and purple past that on the ground. I think that would be overall a good change. I don't think anyone's going to complain in Apex about having more loot. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably some of the at least immediate changes that I would probably do. Or one.
Yeah, they're doing that for the anniversary event, I believe, where they're just all white items are just completely gone from the game. I think that like you were saying, that's gonna be a great change. It's gonna be able to open up the loot pool for a lot of different things that could be either added or just be able to make like a purple armor a little bit easier to find, because there's less things in the loot pool for things to be able to spawn in. And like you were saying with the Kraber being taken out, I know that in the most recent ALGS where here's a question. I remember when you used to cast, you were the only caster to be able to say, I believe it was solified, and then everybody else called it solifide. Which way is the best way to be able to say that team's name? From someone who probably knows.
It's solifide.
Solifide? Okay. Mm-hmm.
No, I was one saying that I'm pretty sure I was the one saying it is solifide because, or at least, yeah, because I VOD reviewed them, I think, before I started casting. I could be wrong on this part. The timeline's a little hazy. But I remember the first time I ever VOD reviewed Solifide, the people from the org came in and told me how to do it. They told me what to say. So
I remember it was just like a complete disconnect from one caster to the next. And it was just so funny to be able to just listen to it or even just watch the tournament. And like you were saying, the Kraber, it's just like in the most recent ALGS event, like SF, I think it was Jen who had it. He just walked up on NRG and Countdown and just completely one-shot sweet, and then it was just a team wipe from there. And then even in the most recent Lulu tournament, day one, where it was a Prize and How in a 2v3, just somebody came up, Prize just hit him one time, and it was 123 damage. That gun just completely shifts any kind of fight within competitive, and especially like in competitive, where just if anything does over 100 damage, it completely shifts how a fight is actually run. And just like one shot potential kill gun, it just completely shifts everything. I'm sure you're known in the community for a multitude of reasons, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, or whether it's the VOD reviews. How do you personally kind of set yourself apart from being known as just the coach or the guy who does the VOD reviews? How do you self-sustain the name Hodsic?
I mean, probably just continuing to play, I mean, I've definitely since becoming a coach, I probably don't grind as hard as I used to. because now I have like other things I need to tend to as well. But I mean, I still play ranked. I still try to scrim when I can if my team needs me, or every now and then I'll fill if I have the time to. I'll fill for like other teams just to, keep up to shape. But I mean, still playing the game, trying to. I don't try to maintain high rank, but I'm friends with a lot of the pros. They know me. They know what I can do, so I still play with them and streaming pretty much. If I don't stream, the more I don't stream, the more I think people would see me as like just a coach. And the more I don't play the game, people would see me as that. So I think just maintaining the ability to play the game, really.
Okay. And just to kind of start wrapping up the podcast, to even get to know you on a more personal level, I have just 10 questions. You can skip a question. You only have to answer 5 of them. And just kind of getting to know you a little bit more. First question, would you rather live in a place where it's always cold and snowy, or somewhere where it's always warm and sunny?
Cold and snowy. Any day.
Cold and snowy, really?
Love the winter.
How come, bro? It's so cold.
Because you can, I'll die on this hill, because you can always put on more clothes, which might not always be comfortable. I get that, but when you're hot and you have no way to deal with it, you can only take off so many clothes, especially given certain scenarios.
That's fair. I remember, because I was born in Orlando and lived in Florida for a while. Trying to go to bed when it's like 100 degrees outside, it's damn near impossible.
That's that's one of my least favorite things about it being hot. If it's hot and I'm like even like mildly like sweating, I can't sleep that night. I simply can't.
Yeah. Dude, we are two opposite ends on this conversation, though. I'll tell you what, that's the only thing I can agree on. Everything else, dude, I'm the guy who wears the sweatshirt in like 80, 90 degrees weather. I'm the one weirdo who does that shit. If you could pick one person that you would like to meet IRL from the Apex community, who would it be that you haven't already met?
That's a tough one.
And it doesn't have to just be one. It could be a couple.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple I would love to meet. One of them comes to mind, that's Deltouche, because I just feel like I feel like you probably can't have a bad time with Deltouche. I feel like no matter what, definitely. You go out, have a couple drinks, and like you will just have a good time. I think that'll be hilarious.
He's just entertaining.
Yeah, Diego's definitely another one. He just seems like such a cool dude. I've spent a decent amount of time just even playing games with him off stream. Just seems like a super nice dude, super cool dude to have like just as a friend. Shiv, I think, would be hilarious for sure. But I think most other ones I've probably met in Poland. I think. At least most of the other ones that I would probably want to hang out. Like, hey, no offense to anyone who I might not have said. I've met a lot of them already.
Mm-hmm. If you could see one legend, whether it's already been meta, or whether it's meta now, or just any kind of off meta, what legend would you want to see come into competitive that would be super entertaining and fun to play?
Fun to play and super entertaining, super meta. I don't know, because those are two very different ones. Because, like, for example, I love the Watson meta. I know viewers don't like it because they think it's too campy, too slow. But as a competitor, like, that brings consistent results, so people like that as the competitor side. So that's tough. Probably, I wouldn't mind just a new character. I like having the meta be diverse. Don't get me wrong, but I think I would like to have a meta or a character that just does a lot of utility, but without making like. I kind of agree with a lot of people that the game is kind of going to maybe crazy, dangerously close to like being ability legends. I personally would also like to get away from that, and so I'd want a character that just kind of like offers utility, or maybe like some new form of movement or rotations that doesn't crazy take away from the game's like fighting skill cap.
Mm-hmm. I know. I believe it. Who was it? I think it was Scissors team in NA. They tried running Rampart for quite a bit. Do you ever think Rampart could ever come into the meta?
Yeah, I do, but I think she needs to be a lot stronger than she is, because she plays into the whole initial way the Pathfinder Watson meta and Wraith meta was. Grab a building and hold it down, because especially I think if Evil Armors didn't exist, if it was still the same way it was, I don't think she'd be that great. But the fact that Evil Armors exist, snipers and long range are obviously very strong choices for weapons. She supplements all of that, right? She gives you increased damage to the walls, She gives which gives you obviously just more poke power and whatnot. So I think she could, in theory, eventually be meta. I think she just needs more love on the walls. I don't think they're just too easy to deal with. I don't think her turret is great at all. I think it's pretty trash. But at the same time, wouldn't want it to be usable, because if you look like that, the turret is an example of an ability that it's going to be garbage if it's really bad, which it is.
Yep.
But if it was at all usable, it would be terrible to play against. Like, that wouldn't feel fun. Like, getting mowed down by Sheila all the time in a meta where Rampart's meta, like, that wouldn't be fun for anyone, I think. So it's a very difficult ability to balance, and I don't envy them for trying to do so if they do. But the walls, I think, would have to shine for her. Her passive is really good, especially now that Spitfire is really good too. Like, her passive definitely is very good. It's just the walls need some more love. They're just too easy to deal with. It's too far. It pushes her too far into, like, you have to be at that spot much earlier than you would anticipate fighting. I think she'd be really fun if, like, you could on the fly kind of like build up a base, like, or build up the walls and get them going without too much trouble. Like, if one of your boys gets down, you could instantly start putting down walls without too much worry about them getting insta destroyed.
I know my buddy kind of brought up a very interesting point. It'd be very different, but say if you had like a door, just a one door, and you were to place a rampart wall on it, it would kind of auto form into like the shape of a door, and it would just completely replace the door. It could still be opened and whatnot, or not. Sorry, it wouldn't be open. The way that you kind of shoot your bullets outside of the wall would still be there, so you could just kind of like jump through it. I think that would just it'd be very interesting, and it'd be a very weird change, but it would. I think that could really help. I mean, I know that you could just already place the wall in front of the door already, but just kind of being able to completely change it, and maybe not having, because I believe you could still throw grenades through it on one side. So if you're on the side, like the orange side of it, where you can't like shoot through it or whatever, if that could like actually block a grenade, so then the nade doesn't actually go through it, I think that would, change her. And like you were saying, she's either going to be the legend who's just not good enough to be able to play, or she's just going to be the legend who's just too good. So trying to be able to find that balance where she's good, but she's not overpowered, is definitely very hard. So I think she could be very fun to be able to play with in comp, and I think she could be very fun to watch. But like you were saying, Sheila, I mean, if she gets too overpowered, then it's just going to be really, really annoying to be able to play.
Yeah. I think if she did enter meta, I don't think it would be bad competitively, but I think it might tread on that same line of like Watson being meta, and they kind of like quote unquote slowing the game down and being boring for people. I say that because I don't think Watson was the reason the game was slow. That's just BRs in a nutshell. Like, nobody wants to push a fight that's not favorable for them to survive. Watson, if anything, made the game more tolerable, because you didn't have to worry too much about shields and nade spam, which felt awful to die to. So,
especially back when you could carry 2 nades at once instead of just one now.
Oh yeah, she's a perfect answer for that, actually.
Next question: if you could have a free pass of lifetime supply of food to any kind of restaurant, whether it's fast food or kind of like dine-in, if you could have a free lifetime pass of just you walk in, get whatever you want, walk out, where would you kind of choose to be able to have that pass to?
It's tough. Probably be something either I want to say something either pizza related or like Chick-fil-A, or maybe even Wendy's. But
Wendy's is a solid pick.
Yeah, but it's only because, so it would be pizza related, but my family actually owns a pizzeria, so I kind of already have that pass in terms of pizza, and it's like really good. So I feel like that's not the right answer. So I'd probably pick like no, I mean, I know people are probably going to be like, "Ew, Wendy's," but I firmly believe that the fast foods that you find that are like good and bad literally depend on like where you live. Like, I know they're very franchised and all that, and they have like a system, but at the end of the day, you still have people handling your food. I've been to some like places that like some Wendy's are like really good, like the one near where I live right now. But there are some Wendy's that are like awful, and I never want to go there again. But the Wendy's next to me makes me want, like, everything they make is, I feel like, tastes the way it should, and it's really good. So probably Wendy's.
I know the Wendy's by me just it takes a little bit of time to be able to get the food out, so you gotta kind of wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I feel like I mean, yeah, it's kind of known as a burger joint, but I feel like they have some diverse stuff. Like their chicken wrap is really, really solid, and it's really underrated.
I almost always just get the spicy chicken sandwich. Almost always.
It's really, really solid, and it's just underrated. And Wendy's just comes out with a lot of coupons, really good coupons too. And I vibe there. I love it. Next question, I guess, and this would probably be the last one, just because you've already answered 5. Are you team Apple or team Android?
Android.
Would you ever switch to Apple?
Nope, switched away from Apple. I think Apple is
really.
Oh yeah, I think Apple is a trash, to be honest. It's just because, like, dude, I had one before. I think the operating system, like, people say like Androids are like phones for boomers, but I don't think they realize like Apple is literally made to cater to boomers. Like the operating system is super simple, which is fine, but anything an iPhone can do, an Android can do as well. But I always see people comparing like cameras and stuff, but I'm like, dude, Android is made for like the common person, right? But you can't compare like a $200 Android phone to a $1,000 iPhone. There are over $1,000 Android phones that can take just as good pictures, if not better, than an iPhone. You know, it's just more. Yeah. There's more competition to like Android phones than I think, and I just don't really like Apple as a company. I think they're just kind of definitely a little bit overrated.
Yeah, I mean their stuff is, for the most part, just kind of rinse and repeat. They don't really update all too much. I mean they'll have small updates here and there with like from phone to phone, but I'm in the same boat. I used to be an Apple user, and then my dad kind of like put us all on an Android thing, and I've loved it ever since. Like the widgets, I feel like widgets are really, really underrated when it comes to Android, and I don't think Apple has widgets. And if they do, it's definitely not on par with Android. So I don't care what other people say. I 100% agree. I'm an Android user for life, I guess.
Yeah, it's just so much more you can do with it, and I prefer it for that reason.
Yeah. So again, just to wrap up the podcast, I kind of like having a recurring question for every person. Last person we had on, like I said earlier, we had Kobe on for the first episode for the pilot, and he kind of wanted to ask you, how did video games change your life?
Well, probably when I was growing up. I mean, I definitely didn't have like the easiest time growing up. My family came from a country that was basically war torn when I was born, so we were very new, or at least my parents were very new to this country. They didn't know much of English. It was definitely rough. Didn't have a lot of money growing up, and overall just like I mean, I had like a decent amount of friends in school, but like I never really felt like I fit in with them, you know what I mean? And video games were always a big escape for me, and I met all of my, like, I have a lot of close friends in real life that I've known from school, but I met like some of my absolute best relationships in terms of like friends and whatnot has come from video games. The people I've just met online from like World of Warcraft was a big one. There's a lot of people I've met in my life from World of Warcraft. I met my girlfriend through Twitch, and we've been together for like 2 years, been very happy. So it's pretty much like everything. And I also now have a job in it too. So it's given me a job I actually wake up happy to work for, and work for like a better version of it every day. I was a financial advisor before gaming, and I just didn't like it. I didn't wake up happy to do what I wanted to do every day. So yeah, it's pretty much everything for me.
I feel like a lot of people kind of have that kind of relationship with gaming, where it's just like it's just an escape from all of your daily tasks, and it's just a way to get away. And honestly, I know a lot of people feel the same way. It's just you kind of build your strongest relationships with people online that are halfway across the country, or halfway across the world, even at that. So it's just a really nice thing to do. For regardless of who's on for the next podcast, what question would you want to give them for them to answer at the end of the podcast?
It's gonna be an Apex guest, right?
Yes, it should be. Yes.
It's an interesting question.
It can be Apex related, or just general, anything at all.
I guess, what would you be doing if Apex just never existed? If it never came out as a surprise launch?
That's a good question. That's solid. That's 10 out of 10 right there.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that seems to be it for the second episode of the Legends Lounge podcast. Again, Hodsic, I really want to thank you for coming on and being just an absolute amazing guest. I feel like we got to talk about a lot of good things. People got to know you on a more personal level. And I definitely want to link any kind of social media that you would want to have in the description, or you could even say it right now. I mean, I would love to, for all the audio users who don't really have a description, I mean, just shout out whatever you would like to right now.
Probably just my Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, which are all literally just Hodsic, HODSIC. So that's pretty simple.
Okay. Well, all of his social medias will be linked in the description for all the YouTube viewers. And make sure to tweet at me and leave in the comment sections below who you would like to be on the next episode. And again, please show Hodsic some love. All of his stuff will be in the description. So you guys, please comment and subscribe. Thank you guys for listening or watching this podcast. See ya. Bye.